Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you. We were present. We previously opened the meeting when closed session. We are now back public session. We'll begin the meeting by rising to the pledge of allegiance and standing for a moment of silence and memory and honor the people who have such a difficult time in California. So, that's really it's why thank you. Seated. We'll begin with motion to adopt the following sets of minutes. December 19th, 2024, December 19th, 2024 closed session minutes. The January 2nd meeting minutes, the January 6th meeting minutes, and the January 6th closed session minutes. So all the council members have a chance to look them over. Are there any concerns or questions? We're going to have a motion to approve the minutes, please. Second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Administrative reports, everybody look at those. Okay. Just call out one or two things. Our trash bill for the year was $129,000. Recycling bill was $41,000. The day is going to get money from recycling. We brought in $18,000 last month in hotel taxes, which is pretty good. One of the things that we may post on the city website, or I may print it up and just have it available. The Department of Public Works has done I think it's like a 10 or 15 year spreadsheet of how much trash and how much recycling we've got rid of over the years and what that costs. And it's interesting to see those numbers because we've really reduced our trash as a municipality quite a bit over the last decade and a half, and our recycling as well. I don't know what to attribute that to, but spreadsheets don't lie.
Maybe clean communities would like to see them give us a little more money here.
Well, they might want to give us a little less. So, corresponding. All right. So, unless there are any questions about that, I'll ask for a motion to approve the administrative reports for the city clerk's report, construction, the municipal court, police department, public works, and the tax collector.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we'll begin with our public participation session. As usual, we ask legitimate mobility issues speakers to step up to the podium, state your name and address. I have 3 minutes of unlimited time for comments or questions, and the council may take a walk and respond to those comments or questions.
Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street. I lived in both Malibu and Santa Monica, so in that area as well. Anyway, it's a horrible little thing that's gone on there. We have to be careful on the East Coast too with bars. But anyway, after we've had the last couple of meetings and had the meeting on round 4, I guess my question tonight is that given the timeline for both round 3 and round 4, and given the controversies that have taken place in the community, have we directed the planners yet to develop another plan that does not include the hill or the Wilson property? And have we started trying to come up with a list of potential alternatives for round 3? Because it's critical the time is moving, whether it's village apartments or Clausen Farm or whatever. And then the second part of that is the hill being removed from the current plan because the plan's still in place. We started that process yet. And my next point is on round 4. We're starting to look at a way of being able to meet those numbers, which are fairly high, 39, without having to go up to the hill and come up with alternatives with overlay zones in places like Valparaiso, which looks like it's sitting empty now, or CVS, which has extra land there, or Gragos or other spots, because again, time is of the essence, and if we drag our feet, we may have to be forced to go up on the hill, and I think that's against the wishes of the people, and also the environmental impacts, the contamination, and the flooding and everything else. Or we could end up being dragged into court, which would be the worst for the whole world, so time is of the essence, and I hope we're starting to give direction to move forward. Thank you.
Sean Ellis, 21 Belvedere Avenue. I just have a few questions, to be specific, I think. One, is the current obligation, calculated with the notion that the Lambertville High School site is developable?
Yes,
And why is that?
because it was established back in 2018, right?
Yeah. Why don't we take that off? Because it'll lower our obligation, right?
And continue to ask your question, please.
It will, no, right?
It will not lower on.
Because the developable land is the numbers are based on the amount of developable land, right?
Why don't you ask your questions and then we'll,
Okay. So that's what one question is, isn't the obligation based on the amount of developable land, viable developable land? My second question is, now that we have told Kay Hovnanian that we are not interested in the proposed ordinance and, redevelopment plan that involved 200 units, will the conversations that we had with them, that the council and the mayor had with them, be released to the public? And if not, why?
Anything else?
Those are my two questions.
Okay, thanks. So the numbers do not change, they do not diminish regardless of what happens. So it's been repeated again and again. Our third round obligation number does not change. We are responsible for the 28 units that we already committed to in the third round for the high school site. So there's no way to change that. The attorney's been very clear about that.
Excuse me, Mayor, sorry.
Mhm.
Would it be fair to say that the numbers and the obligations are based on certain criteria? Versus the ones that are allocated to projects. So the number was there before the project was there. So the number stays.
We may go too far down into the rabbit hole here. I want to be careful that I'm always saying exactly what I know. 28 units were part of the high school area redevelopment plan, had part of the third round compliance mechanism. The
139 total units.
right, yes, okay, but I just want to talk, when you start throwing in the other numbers, it gets even more confusing. So, that was that was one of the mechanisms for the third round. And if for some reason that mechanism, the site was declared buildable then. And I'd have to get a little bit more elaboration from the attorney, but she was very clear that if we do not do anything with the site, we still keep the number.
I've asked that question, just so you know, to the attorney and also through Elaine, who is our affordable housing expert too. And so I've asked that question many, many times, and unfortunately the answer has not changed, even though I continue to ask it. So.
Yeah, and then even if you want to take it like to really bog your mind, so then in the fourth round, they changed the formula, but the vacant land number is 0, so it's not. So the fourth round is predicated on that land bank.
Oh, it's 0 because we've already allocated it for round 3.
Well, for whatever DCA came up with,
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
yeah, there's different factors than they use.
I'll continue to ask the question, don't worry.
Yeah.
Great.
I don't know if the answer's gonna change anytime soon.
Elaine's tired of me asking.
And the second question about releasing this information, closed session information to the public, that's not gonna happen. I'm gonna ask Bill to elaborate on that partially because we're not finished with this matter. So You know, I don't know, Bill, you can probably say it in a better way than I can.
Yeah, I think the reason they wouldn't be released is because the city doesn't have immunity right now from. Some kind of lawsuit arising from that. You know, that's KL is one of the people who. Could bring such a suit, so I would recommend that it's not releasing. That information is, I think, will be a significant part of any lawsuit if one is filed. We're not aware.
They filed one.
No.
Nothing has been filed. We're not aware that anything is imminent. We're just saying the city doesn't have immunity, so it's a possibility that one could be filed.
But do they have standing?
Yes.
Because they can build 139 units, right? And that would allow us to fulfill third round obligation.
Not entirely, because we have not satisfied the 5 units from the police station site.
Well, that's a different matter. That's
No,
not
it's-
pertaining to the
Part of
the
the
2018 redevelopment
The thing,
plan. Right?
I don't want to go too far here, but if there's an immediate issue with the city. In regards to the third round, it's not gonna be about the high school area. That's a mechanism that's in place, right? But what was part of the 2020, and I'll talk about this in the State of the City address. Part of the 2020 amended settlement agreement was the 5 units at the police station site. We have not accounted for those units, and so that put us. When I began, that was the main talking point with the court and fair share. That we had not met that obligation. What we were going to do about it. That's why we began to have conflict. That's and really the reason. Well, KL came to us, and that was the reason. We began to have these conversations was because we thought we're obviously not going to build 5 units at the police station site. So maybe we can accommodate some units somewhere else, and we'll be able to get back in and renegotiate the settlement agreement. So
Do we have a plan for those 5 units?
no.
So
So I'm going to talk about this in a
Why not?
minute. So I'm going to talk about this as part of the State of the City address. I'll just note that, the city's in a precarious position, I think.
that you put us in.
All right, I'm gonna ask you to step aside now. Your 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
I would just say, Sean, I know why you're asking the question about the minutes for transparency, and we all share that concern, and we want to make sure we're as transparent as possible, but you also have to balance that with the weight of a possible lawsuit, which, I think that's a very, well, we can't release them at this time, but that can change in the future, but I understand why you're asking. the question.
Is there anybody else in the room who would like to offer comment or questions? Yeah, you're on the line. How many people do we have on the line?
There's 5 online.
Thank you.
Susan, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay, hi, I'm Susan Bristol. I don't know if my camera should be working, but it doesn't appear to be. Can you see me?
No, we can't.
But don't worry about it.
Okay, okay, so I'm the municipal policy specialist at the Watershed Institute, and I wanted to extend our support for your resolution this evening, number 40-2025, which is about the Sourland region. And I wanted to emphasize 3 of the bullet points in that resolution. The state recognition of the importance of the Sourlands will help with both the public and private preservation of land, that the ACSC designation will lay the groundwork for any needed legislation to protect the Sourlands, and that the designation will call attention to the need to protect the quantity and quality of surface waters and groundwater of the region. The Watershed Institute therefore supports the designation of the Sourland region as an area of critical state concern and urges the State Planning Commission to include this in its current update of the State Development and Redevelopment Plan. And I just wanted to follow that with a question. I wondered if you all had authored that, or if you're planning to share it with other towns who I believe are very interested in a similar resolution.
Thanks for calling in, Susan. We'd be happy to share it. In fact, it was Lauren Cleveland, the executive director, with my had a conversation about it. She sent us the language. So That language is available through the Sauerland Conservancy directly. I'd be happy to forward it to anybody. I believe strongly that this is an important work the Sauerland Conservancy is doing, and especially in advocating for this designation. So happy to share it, and I'm happy if you want, you're more than welcome to call me. My number's on the city website. I'm happy to connect with any other communities or organizations that might want to participate in the public comment period for this.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to also remind you all and invite you to the 8th annual New Jersey Watershed Conference at TCNJ and virtually offered on February 20th and 21st. And Mayor, we always appreciate your participation.
Hey there. Okay, thanks, Susan.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, never knows, you want to close the public comment period, please?
Move.
And second, please.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right, we'll go on to the state of the city address. Each year, as is required by municipal code, the mayor is responsible for delivering a state of the city address to the city, and it's always it's always a wonderful exercise for me to sit quietly and think about the city and to go back into our records and to check in with the clerks or the police or the deputy treasurer for information about what we did this year, how we quantify it, and kind of what it means. And sometimes I think that the activities that we participate in here, how we run the municipal government, the kind of people that we have and our employees and our volunteers really are they're the entirety of the state of the city, right? So I may not use a lot of adjectives when I talk about the state of the city, because I think that what's in what we do is so significant and important that that's kind of the overriding thing. A lot of us have different views on what the state of the city might be, depends on who you are. It's a lot of different ways to interpret things. And I try my best to strike a middle road, not to go too far down one side or the other in terms of my own personal interpretations of the state of the city. But there are some things here that I think are important to note. Make yourself comfortable. It takes about 12 minutes to read. This will be posted to the website tomorrow, and I'll put a link to it next week in Lambertville Matters as well. So I'm going to begin with economic environment and municipal finances. Underlying economic factors in the city continue to be strong and positive. The 2024 valuation of real property in Lambertville was $923,347,419. And that's a single year increase of $52,188,627. According to the tax assessor, Lambertville may very well top $1 billion in valuation in the next year or two. Overall investment in the city continues to grow with new restaurants, shops, galleries, businesses, and commercial and residential development. To highlight a few particulars, in 2024, the city received $220,805 from the 2% transfer tax for its 2 open cannabis dispensaries, which is approximately $60,000 more than in revenue than we budgeted last year. A third dispensary is under construction, and another micro business is working its way through the application and board process. The city currently has 42 registered short-term rentals and 246 registered long-term rentals, all of which contribute to the local economy. Parking revenue is down $18,499 from 2023. The difference may be attributed to the loss of metered parking spaces at the Wells Fargo Bank in April, weather conditions, and the impact of the bridge restoration. Of note, October saw the highest parking revenue of any month in the last 3 years. That was $58,915. This past December saw the lowest parking revenue in 3 years, $35,837. And while I have no hard data, the bridge project certainly has had an economic impact to our business community as well. But the Chamber of Commerce and business owners have worked hard to offset the impact, and thankfully, the bridge work is nearly complete. The finance team has not yet completed the 2024 budget overview or worked sufficiently through the 2025 budget for me to speak to specifics, but we expect that rising revenues and falling debt service will continue to have a positive impact on the bottom line. In terms of our administration, the city currently employs 27 full-time people and 12 part-time people. This year, we will say goodbye to 4 long-term employees who are scheduled to retire: Ken Rogers, Lester Myers, Robin Worthington, and Sergeant Mello. In 2024, we said goodbye to Christopher Burkett, Kevin Verheiko, and Sally Lee. We welcome Samuel from Praderitz and are about to say goodbye to him. This week, we are in the process of hiring two new DPW laborers. We're also in negotiations with an excellent candidate for the construction official position. In 2024, the city amended its fire prevention ordinance, which designated the Lambertville Fire District as the lead agency for fire prevention. In its first year, the fire official completed 506 inspections of smoke detectors, non-light and light hazards, far surpassing the capabilities of the previous municipal run program. The city continues to be served by more than 100 volunteers who serve on our boards and commissions. In January and early February, I will attend reorganization meetings for the planning board, the library board, the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Zoning Board of Adjustment, the LMUA board, the Environmental Commission, the Historic Preservation Commission, the Human Rights Council, the Broadband Cable and Television, the Telephone and Services Advisory Committee, the Shade Tree Commission, and the LEM. Affordable housing. As Lambertville heads into its 4th round, the city has not fully met its 3rd round obligation. The 2020 amended 3rd round housing element and fair share plan requires 5 rental units at the police station site, and these remain unaccounted for. Last summer, amendments to the Lambertville High School redevelopment area plan were initially seen as acceptable were tabled after introduction in June. Negotiations continued unsuccessfully until late fall, after which the city advised Hovnanian that their conditional redeveloper status would not be renewed 2 years after it was granted. The court adjudicator is now involved, and the city will continue to provide updates on the status when available. On October 10th of this year, I met the executive director of Habitat for Humanity to assess the potential for building affordable units in the exception area of the city-owned Holcomb Park. I have since met Habitat engineers and Ken Rogers, the construction code official, on the site. In an effort to fully understand the viability of constructing units, I've also corresponded with Green Acres and the New Jersey State Historic Preservation Office. And I think now is the right moment to bring this possibility forward, with the caveat that the potential project has not yet been publicly discussed, and that there are a number of reasons why it may move slowly or not at all. It must be said that the potential construction of these units to satisfy our 3rd round obligation would ultimately be the decision of the court, not Lambertville. The court and the court adjudicator have been informed of everything we have done this year at every step of the way. An Affordable Housing Advisory Committee has been appointed by the governing body and will meet twice monthly until at least June 2025. These will be open public meetings. The first one's next Wednesday here in this room at 7 p.m. Municipal projects. Coordinating around Veolia infrastructure upgrades, the city recently completed repaving North Franklin Street from Route 179 to Ely Field. Sections of Swan and Stutterford were also repaved with new curving added. This spring, the city will repave and restore to its one-way traffic flow the section of Church Street between North Franklin and North Main Street. Also this year, we will coordinate Veolia for infrastructure upgrades and the repaving of South Franklin Street from Highland down. The city has recently been awarded a New Jersey Department of Transportation grant to repave a section of Lower Swan and a section of South Union Street, which we hope to complete in the early fall. The state-funded project to expand and update the DPW facility is nearly complete. This year, the library will be repointed and the lead paint mitigated. Colors have been chosen and funds are in the bank for the library to be painted in 2025. Likewise, the city bonded money to replace the library elevator. The city will seek bids to repaint the Holcomb House this spring. Capital improvements to the Central Business District are forthcoming. Dozens of trees have been planted along city streets and in city parks, with more to come. On November 2nd of this year, of last year, the Parks and Recreation Commission dedicated a much expanded and improved nature trail in honor of Russ Lambert. The city continues to make steady progress with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant project at Fulton Park. And we continue to work on closing out the administrative paperwork for Cavallo Park, which will result in long-awaited Green Acre funding. The city is engaged in ongoing discussions with Fisherman's Mark to purchase the farm market for a sum higher than the appraised value. The first step is to survey the proposed subdivision, followed by the introduction of a proposed redevelopment plan. Once these tasks are complete, the city can move forward with the sale. Given the possibility of affordable housing units and driveway access agreements with Green Acres and Fisherman's Mark, I'll note this is a complex set of interlocking projects. PFAS. Elevated levels of PFAS have now been found in multiple private wells on College Hill. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection has tested and will complete more testing in neighborhood wells, and will, at a time yet to be determined, conduct a source investigation. Partnering with West Amwell officials and the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, the city hosted an informational session for affected and concerned residents on December 3rd, 2024. Stormwater management and resilience. In terms of stormwater management, the city has received final approval of plans for new stormwater infrastructure behind the firehouse, and we expect this to go out to bid in the next month or two. The $450,000 project cost will be reimbursed by a federal appropriation. This week, tons of storm debris are being cleared from Healy Creek behind the elementary school for the first time in more than a decade. We continue to partner with the school district to oversee the installation of pervious pavement at the city-owned parking lot adjacent to the school. An uncompleted 2015 project to restore a section of the creek bank along Upper York Street is being redesigned and has been funded through the Ida Recovery Bond Ordinance. The city has purchased a new street sweeper. We have also purchased a video camera to assess the condition of our storm sewer pipes and culverts. I have created a 16-hour-per-week stormwater coordinator position, and the coordinator will begin submitting monthly reports to the governing body and the public on all stormwater activities. This year, I will introduce a capital bond ordinance to retrofit municipally owned inlets as required by the MS4 Tier A permit. Additionally, the city will begin to track and report on all stormwater management costs, both operational and capital, including debt service projections. Using grant funds, the city completed the stormwater utility feasibility study in June of last year. While there exists no short-term possibility of enacting a stormwater utility here in Lambertville, the final report provides a wealth of data and recommendations that will continue to guide our work and define our goals. As a recipient of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection Municipal Assistance Program grant, Lambertville will soon receive a final report, including recommendations for a resilience action plan. This following a year-long process of research and public discussion. Some of the proposed strategies are already being discussed for implementation this year. These are some of the salient facts of the state of the city, but by no means the whole story. Over the years, I've heard many refer to Lambertville as a bubble in which we happily live, somewhat apart from the harsher facts of the world. But that's not really true. Like all communities, we're inexorably connected to the larger world in time and space. Whether it's stormwater racing through our culverts and creeks from our uphill neighbors, or state mandates about affordable housing, or an infrastructure project that negatively impacts our businesses, or a worry that federal immigration agents will wrest people from their homes, or a societal need for market rate and affordable housing, or the slow degradation of the environment from past mistakes, or the shifting climate all around us, or the price of eggs, we are definitely not living in a bubble. The point of this is that we keep many facts in our heads, and we make decisions based on our analysis of our most important priorities, be they shared or individually held. As a person who devotes his days and nights to the city, its people, and the countless swirling facts, my overall sense continues to be one of gratitude for the whole messy business of life, and for the particular comforts the majority of us enjoy. We enjoy these comforts because we have earned them, and because we are lucky through circumstances we only partly control. That we generously share the comforts with our neighbors and beyond the bubble makes the state of the city something we can all be proud of. Thank you, each and every one of you, wherever you are, for all that you do. Thank you. we'll move on to resolutions. The consent agenda this evening. Resolutions on the consent agenda are considered routine, and shall be enacted by one motion. Should any member of the city council seek separate discussion of any item, that item shall be removed and discussed separately. I'm looking, well, first of all, let's ask, well, so we're gonna consider a motion to adopt resolutions on the consent agenda, numbers 32-2025 through 42-2025. Do any council members have questions or issues with any of these? Okay. Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We'll have a voice vote, please. All those in favor can say aye. Aye. Thank you. The motion carries. Moving on to resolution number 43-2025. A resolution of the city of Lambertville and the county of Hunterdon, New Jersey, establishing the city's fourth round present and prospective need pursuant to the Fair Housing Act as calculated by the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. So this is a requirement of all municipalities to submit by the end of the month. We held an open public meeting on January 6th with representatives from the community, the Affordable Housing Attorney, Kelly Grant, Clark Hayden Hintz, and the council to kind of wade into some of these issues and to kind of understand them. Subsequently, Councilman Lyde and I met with council again to review what a resolution would look like. This is kind of what we came up with. It's based on a lot of careful research and expertise from the. Sorry, I'm talking too much. From the professionals. Councilman Lyde, do you want to say anything about this process? Councilman Lyde's been very involved. Continue to be as we go into the fourth round.
So I know there were a lot of questions about this pending lawsuit involving this fourth round that had filed in Mercer County. It's being that there was a hearing late December and they didn't meet the standard of time for the relief that they wanted, but it's still ongoing. And so part of what we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that if that does change, that we would get the benefit of that. And so that's why we spent some extra time on that language to include that in here. And, we actually, some of the wording is the city of Lambertville reserves the right to adjust its fourth round affordable housing obligations, not to exceed an amount of present need of 0 units and a prospective need of 39 units in the event that a decision of a court of competent jurisdiction or an action by the New Jersey legislature will result in calculation of lower obligation of the city. So we have that built in. Again, our professionals looked at the calculations and, because we were already at 0 in terms of the vacant land, there really isn't much of a chance that our number is going to change in the future. So this was what we came up with and, that's for it.
Thanks. So, yeah, just to, and there is on the city website and the affordable housing webpage, the presentation has been added from that meeting, which very clearly lays out the factors, the requirements for the determination of the number. So if anybody has any questions about that, there were 3 specific calculations. The first 2 were data based on everything from population to earning and so forth. So we really have no grounds to challenge the number based on the fact that there's 0 land available according to the DCA. So we talked about this quite a bit, and unless the council has any further question, and then I'm going to have a follow-up question for you, Cindy, after we vote on this resolution from the process. So any other questions from the council or any final thoughts? I'll thank the
I
council.
want to add one more thing too, just so the public knows the next step too. This is different from the 3rd round. The 4th round, we are now required to file something with the court, an action, and so within 48 hours of passing this. So that's why this is on such a tight time frame. So we're also going to be filing an action with the court that is listed in here as well. So, and even if so everyone has to do that within 48 hours of passing this.
Thanks. That's what I was going to ask Cindy to explain. All right, we have a motion to adopt resolution 43-2025, please. So moved. Second, what's the roll call on this, Cindy, just because?
Sure.
Councilwoman Kaminsky,
Yes.
Councilman Lai,
Yes.
Councilman Stegman.
Yes,
Council President Lambert,
Yes,
Mayor Noah.
Yes, all right. Thank you to the council members and to everybody who's worked so hard just to get us to this point, in so early in the year. It was a little bit of a mad dash the last few weeks, and, I appreciate everybody's efforts. And I'm looking forward to working with the advisory committee. All right. We're going to move on to approval of the bills list. Is there a motion to approve the bills list? No, okay, all right, I'll second it. All in favor of paying bills, please say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. Oh, you have to,
use my power. I'll do a voice vote review.
okay, so, should we do a roll call, Cindy, or do you can't that?
No, I got it. You're
Okay.
recusing yourself.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's painful, but I can.
Got it.
Painful is signing all the checks, and writer's cramp. Thank you for remembering that, Councilman.
Well, it's a little difficult not to.
Well, I appreciate you calling it out. We have an ordinance first reading tonight, so in my State of the City address, I did talk about Fisherman's Mark. This continues to be a process. Fisherman's Mark would like to continue to stay in the space until we complete the transaction with them. And so we need to extend their lease. So this is ordinance number 101/2025. It's an ordinance authorizing the extension of the lease agreement between the city of Lambertville and Fisherman's Mark for use of a portion of the property owned by the city located at 260 North Main Street, block 2, lot 1. So this ordinance, with changing the terms of this, in previous iterations, we had 1 year extensions. What we're seeking to do is do a tenant on a month-to-month basis, just because we don't know how long the process is going to take. My best guess is that if we get the survey done and we get the redevelopment ordinance passed, that's at least 2 or 3 months. So hopefully by kind of late spring, we should be able to pull the trigger and do the deal. This just gives us a little bit of flexibility in that. So, are there any questions from any of the council members on this?
no,
Okay, we have a motion to introduce ordinance number 01-2025 for first reading with a public hearing scheduled for February 20, 2025.
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, we don't have any second reading ordinances. Do we have correspondence? Cindy?
No.
No correspondence. All right, so one board appointment I'd like to make, Bob Jordan's stepping off the planning board, so he may be leaving the city. He was an excellent addition. He was a remarkable level of insight and expertise, and I'm going to miss him on the planning board. And I miss him personally because he's a really good guy. So with his departure, I would nominate Jim Harris to replace Mr. Jordan. So Jim Harris is already on the board serving as an alternate. He would replace Mr. Jordan to a term expiring 12/31/2026. And I'd like to nominate Wells Weingart to serve as alternate number 1, to serve a term expiring on 12/31/2025. I sent Wells's resume around to the council. I worked with him on the community advisory team. He was until recently the administrator for Bridgewater. I find he is a very smart person and a very dedicated one to the community. So I'm happy to make this nomination. Are there any questions from the council? Okay, I'd like to make motions to confirm my only nomination. Are you ready? Okay. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Thank you. I don't really have much in the way to say about ongoing projects because I said so much during the State of the City speech. I will say that I was very pleased. I went to the school today and talked to the children. I was there for an hour and a half talking to all the classrooms on Creekside. Diggers were out and we're cleaning Neely Creek from debris that's dating back to Irene. So really tons and tons of dirt and sticks and rocks and it's a very trees. Yeah, very satisfying project. I've been out there for the last couple of days checking in on the crew, and they've really done a great job. They've cleaned up everything behind the school already. They laid down straw They've got a few more piles to pick up. We originally thought it was gonna take 5 to 7 days, but it's only probably like gonna be 3 or 4 days. It's a great project, and we have that as part of an open maintenance permit with the DEP now, so we can continue to monitor debris in that stream over the course of the next couple of years and remove it as necessary. The debris did have low level of contamination. We had to do soil testing, so it's being hauled off to some distant place in Pennsylvania. It's a project I've been looking forward to getting done for a long time. It's a good project. So that's the only thing I've got on my list right now. Talk about lots of things going to be happening in the spring. I'll be reporting on those regularly. Announcements. I noted earlier that we will have the first or the second, the committee members for the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee did come to the meeting on the 6th. I introduced the community to them. We will have our second meeting next Wednesday here in this room at 7 o'clock. Community center hours are as noted, February 21st and February 15th from 9 to noon.
Mayor, could you please it's from now on, it's going to be on the city's website. So we won't have it on the agenda. You can just go right to the website and see it.
For what?
For the convenience hours,
Okay.
they're all on the website, as well as the holiday closure. That schedule's on there as well.
Okay. Yeah, so we were organized this year. We got all this Lindsay and Lester, we got all work together. It's all printed up, or it's all set as a file. So I've got it on the back of my refrigerator, not on the back of my refrigerator, on the back of my pantry door. So I know that I won't miss the trash on Good Friday this year. Because it won't be picked up on Good Friday. So thanks for that. Little things make a difference to people. So thanks for that work. Holiday closure, City Hall closed on Monday, this week for Martin Luther King Day. There'll be no bulk trash pickup. Reminding the public that parking permits just expired December 31st, 2024. Dog and cat licenses are due no later than February 28th to avoid a late fee. Also, landlord registration for both long-term and short-term rental is coming up. It's well underway. So to avoid the last minute rush, we encourage people to go ahead and file as early as possible. And now we'll open it up to the second public participation session. Same articles before. Please step to the microphone in 3 minutes and give us your name and address.
Hi there, Beth O'Brien, 2 Hancock Street. I want to thank you passing the ordinance to support the designation of the Sauerland region as an area of critical state concern. I reviewed a map of the Sauerlands, and it includes both Cottage Hill and Collinville in Lambertville. Will we be updating our master plan to reflect these preservation and conservation initiatives for both public and private land? Will we be implementing these initiatives through new zoning or new ordinances?
I'm not prepared to answer that question. I mean, the re-examination report isn't, we will probably start to work on it, I would think in 2027 or 20, when we could potentially start on it earlier. It's every 10 years. The last one was done in 2019. So for the next re-examination report, the master plan would typically take place in 2029. Why are you guys looking at that there?
No, I do, it's an interesting point I thought of, because we are involved in the cross acceptance of the state plan, Paul. And so I would imagine that if, the Sauerlands, how it's treated would be, we would be, one of our first, steps or acknowledgement of it would be through the cross acceptance process, whatever is, want to say, or attributed, to the Sauerlands being, what conservation mode, what is it going to mean for them to be in the state plan as we've just supported? We, we will be at the table for the state plan. I got Paul, in cross acceptance, so, but it will come up.
Yeah, and I'm unfamiliar with this as a process, completely unfamiliar, and I know you and Paul have been kind of watching, Paul, you're going to a meeting, I forget, when is it, next week? Are you going on the 20, I forget.
I could listen. February.
February, okay, so there's a meeting up at the county for the cost acceptance program, so. You know, I know absolutely would be more than happy to have people start to kind of, you know, work on it as possible. You know, I'm not sure what that looks like, so. And or Paul, if you want to be comfortable with, he wants, help me with that, I'm happy to. Move it.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Sean Ellis, 21 Belvedere Avenue. I was pleasantly surprised by the state of the city address, and the consideration of Holcomb Park as a possible way to fulfill some of our obligation. I think that is wise. I'm hopeful about it. And when you mentioned, Mayor, that you modeled your mayorship on Jimmy Carter, I didn't know you were talking so literally, about working with Habitat, but, I do appreciate that. It's a good thing to look into, so thank you.
Thanks, you know, it's a. I'm perfectly happy to explore it, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't, and in many ways, and full disclosure, my best friend is the executive director of Habitat for Humanity. And I think it would be a great project, and I think it's a really interesting idea. And yeah, I'm completely open to it. You know, the advantages, and we're gonna have to talk about it publicly, right? So this was the first time I've mentioned this to anybody, other than the council members and I have talked about it. Because they've done this kind of this work up front, to check and sort of explore the viability of it. There are a lot of advantages. We already own the land, so that makes it pretty straightforward. Connecting utilities is pretty straightforward. Looking at the site, and you know, kind of we've already had some conversations about what it could look like when we will, you know, I don't want to talk about it too much, but you know, I would say that it could provide as many as 6 units. It wouldn't, the site wouldn't provide more than 6 units. But that's something, right? And you know, I've already mentioned this to the judge and to the court adjudicator, something that we've been talking about, thinking about. And so there we are. We begin to take it more. We can talk about it, have a public meeting, or we'll bring it up and make sure that everybody has plenty of time to digest it, to ask questions. We're super early, but let's look at it.
And just to follow up, there is also potential with Norwest Cap and maybe other organizations for. I sent you and other vendors, Cindy, that information. So, yeah, again, thank you.
Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street. The one thing I'll mention, because we're gonna have a Green Acres issue, the Green Acres rules do have, even for removing lands off the Rossi for 100% affordable. So the Green Acres should not really be a problem, since it's an exclusion area, and Green Acres themselves. One reason I know this is I was one of the people who years ago fought to get that in there, because we have so much public land with old buildings and houses on it that you could do beneficial reuse for affordable housing, as long as it's 100% not going to market. So, you know, Green Acres should be helpful, though I know there's problems with how Green Acres is run and things like that, but that should not be a problem. The main issue is to, you know, try to make it fit into the historic character of the area. And I sent out a while ago this project up in Massachusetts where they actually did that. They used the, you know, retrofitted the existing structures and added structures that look just like the historic building, so it fit in as well the character. I hope they can maybe get even there. But anyway, 6 is still 30 units. We're not building somewhere else. So I look at it that way. On the Sourlands, I've been through cross acceptance. God, it's 1988, I think was my first hit with that. It's a complex process, but the main thing about it is that as the plan gets done, then the towns can implement and have the safeguard of the plan if they want to do certain things to help protect properties. So for instance, if you're if it does get designated as, an area of special concern, which the Highlands was, we ended up passing the Highlands Act, so. Which made it even more implementable, but the point is, if you have a planning area 4B like we are, and you have an area of special concern, that allows you to be able to do things like withdraw sewer service areas or, basically downzone areas if you want to preserve natural features or protect other natural features or that are part of it. So it can be a backstop to doing things to help protect the properties.
Anyone else? Somebody online? Okay. I'll make a motion to close the public comment period, Madam Secretary. All in favor, please say aye. Once again, I'd like to thank you all for coming out on a very cold night. Stay warm. Always good to see you.
And now I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. We're adjourned. Thanks again.
So sorry.
Wait for Florida when you